Lumipas at magbago ang panahon. Iisa at nakatatak ang kauna-unahang himpilan sa paghahatid ng serbisyo publiko at balita. Ito ang Radio Mindanao Networks. Higit 6 na dekada sa paglilingkod sa masang Pilipino. Sa Metro Manila, ito ang DZXL 558 Radyo Trabaho, ang inyong gabay sa hanap buhay.
Mga kasama, nagpapatuloy po ang Talk to the People ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Nag-umpisa ito sa pagpresenta ng Pangulo sa mga accomplishments sa mga otoridad hinggil po sa buy-bus operation. Sa ngayon, inilalatag na ng Pangulo at mga gabinete nito ang mahagpang ng pamahalaan sa pagtugon sa COVID-19, gayon din po sa magkakasunod na bagyo na tumama sa bansa. Pakinggan natin mga kasama ang Talk to the People ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte.
So, several stages of intensification in just one day. It made landfalls, 7 landfalls in all, in Eastern Visayas, Mimaropa, and Calabarzon. From 6 September to 8 September. And as of last night, it exited the Philippine area of responsibility and was then a severe tropical storm. Next slide. There were reports of incident and flooding, 160 flooded areas, all in all in Region 3, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Region 5, Region 6, and Region 7, and Region 8. But most of this already subsided. There were other 42 incidents monitored, like soil erosion, landslides, uprooting of trees, and 2 maritime incidents, or capsizing of 2 boats. A total of 11,062 individuals were displaced. This covers the preemptive evacuation carried out by the local government units in Calabarzon, Mimaropa, and Region 8, as well as the forced evacuations that followed during the onslaught of Typhoon Julina. We received also report of, next slide please, 14 dead, 7 missing, and 20 injured. For the deaths, 1 died due to landslide incident in Laurel, Batangas. Other deaths are still for validation, but most of these were fishermen who were out into the sea during the onslaught of Typhoon Julina. On damages, a total of, next slide please, 6,423 houses were damaged. Most of these, however, are only partially damaged. There are 22 damaged infrastructures amounting to around 30 million pesos, and damages to agriculture about 256 million pesos. Next slide. Our preparedness. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council Operations Center convened the different agencies and offices and conducted a series of meetings for our pre-disaster risk assessment. And we also issued 35 emergency alert and warning messages through the telco Smart and Globe. All national line agencies monitored and were placed on standby in the event of escalation of responses. There were also preparedness measures carried out by the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction Management Councils of Region 8, Mimaropa, Calabarzon, NCR, Region 5, and Central Zone. The local government units likewise carried out their pre-disaster risk assessment meetings, conducted preemptive evacuations and rescue operations, and they were also in the forefront in catering to the needs of affected populations or in the management of evacuation centers. These are some of the pictures during the disaster responses in connection with Typhoon Julina. As most of the evacuees have gone back to their respective homes by now, the focus is on the search and rescue for the 7 missing individuals, the provision of support to those still in evacuation centers, replenishment of relief goods to LGUs by DSWD, and clearing operations. So that is our update in connection with Typhoon Julina, Mr. President, and on to the updates on Typhoon Kiko. Presently, Typhoon Kiko is now moving northwestwards from its position east of Tuguegarao. Shown is the timelines describing the development of Kiko from its entry into the Philippine area of responsibility on September 7. And as of 5 o'clock this afternoon, based on the Tropical Cyclone Bulletin number 15 of Pagasa, Typhoon Kiko was located at 190 kilometers east of Tuguegarao City, Cagayan. Its maximum sustained winds is at 215 kilometers per hour, which is 10 kilometers per hour short of the super typhoon category. But its gustiness is at 265 kilometers per hour, which is already at a super typhoon category. It is moving at 15 kilometers per hour to the direction of the northwest. And at 6:20 this afternoon, Pagasa raised Tropical Cyclone Warning Signal number 4 for Babuyan Island, Cagayan, which is second to the highest of our typhoon signal. And at 8:20 this evening, an orange rainfall heavy alert or intense rain was released over Cagayan province. Based on the predictive analytics by DSWD, using Pagasa's data on rainfall, around 746,000 individuals are projected to be affected by Typhoon Kiko in the next 72 hours. These areas include also areas in Mindanao which will experience heavy rains due to Typhoon Kiko. Next slide, please. Next slide. Shown are our preparedness for Typhoon Kiko. The meetings we conducted at the Operation Center of the NBRMC, the release of alerts and advisories, and the preparedness measures of the national line agencies. We also conducted emergency meeting this afternoon, focusing on the updates from Region 2, which is the region nearest to the center of the track of Typhoon Kiko. Next slide. This is our monitoring of the dam situation, and Magat Dam, which contributed to the flooding last year in Cagayan Valley, is still at 4 meters below its spilling level. Bonton Bridge in Tuguegarao City likewise is at 2.5 meters level. Its alarm level is at 8 meters and critical level is 11 meters. So that means that it looks like we have no risk of flooding in Cagayan River due to Typhoon Kiko. The other dam levels are also as shown. Ambuklao in Benguet is also below its spilling level. Should it spill water, it will flow into Binga Dam, which is likewise still at below spilling level. But should it spill, its water will feed into the San Roque Dam in Pangasinan, which is still 17 meters below its spilling level. Next slide, please. Shown are the preparedness measures of the Office of Civil Defense as well as their regional disaster risk reduction management councils. Region 2, through this WD, readied the 20,000 plus family food packs and started today the carrying out of preemptive evacuations in Cagayan and Isabela. And likewise, prepositioned heavy equipment and teams for clearing and availability of PPEs in evacuation centers. The other regions, Region 1, Region 3, and Cordillera, their preparation is more on readiness of logistics, since there's still no need for carrying out preemptive evacuation in their areas. So, next slide, please. So that ends my presentation, Mr. President, on updates on the situation in connection with Typhoon Julina and Typhoon Kiko. Thank you.
Thank you, General Halad. At this point, let's talk about education, and I'd like to call on Secretary Briones to report on DepEd and what's happening in the department.
Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, fellow members of the Cabinet, as well as the Filipino people. We want to give a summary of our 5-year gains in the fight for accessible and quality education. During the past 5 years, Mr. President, we have continually addressed the challenge of quality in basic education. We are now concentrating on quality since we were successful in increasing enrollment levels. So it's not quantity alone, but quality as well. Under our program of Sulong Edukalidad, we reviewed the curriculum where before we required more than 15,000 learning competencies, and which were reduced to 5,000 in the light of the pandemic, Mr. President. We all know that where there are good students, well-performing learners, there should be good teachers as well. There will be good teachers and we will have good learners. And so we are transforming the National Educators Academy of the Philippines. We are also continuously consulting with the broad range of stakeholders, which we call the Education Forum, which gives us advice on many things relative to education. The gains, next please. The gains in education, Mr. President, were made possible because of the very high level of support and commitment that your administration has given to education right from the beginning. When you assumed in 2016, Mr. President, you increased our budget by 31% from 2015, which is very, very significant. And at present, our budget stands at 595 billion pesos, which constitutes a significant portion of our national budget as provided for by the Constitution. Next, please. What is important, Mr. President, is how we utilize the budget and the funds which are made available to us. In the year 2015, just before you assumed office, Mr. President, we had indebted 88% budget utilization. At present, for the year 2020, your budget utilization rate is 96%. This means that we have, as much as possible, utilized the funds that you have given to us through the national budget from 88 to 96%. Next, please. Mr. President, insofar as the enrollment is concerned, as I said, we first concentrated on quantity. We recorded an 8.45% increase in enrollment from 24.92 million learners to 27 million learners in 2019. And despite the pandemic, Mr. President, we managed an enrollment of 26.23 million students for this year, which is 97% of pre-pandemic. And considering all the different varieties of viruses which has plagued our system, including education, it's quite significant that our enrollment levels are still high. Next, please. We also have invested the funds that you have given to us through our budget in improving the learning environment. We have built, with funds which you provided, 150,149 new classrooms compared to the period of 2010 to 2016 of 118,000. We have built technical and vocational laboratories of 12,786 compared to 147 which were built during the same period of 2010 and 2016. We have repaired and rehabilitated classrooms, 103,548, vis-a-vis the previous period of 35,804. And since we believe and we protect our heritage schools, we have rebuilt with the funds that you have given us 588 Gabaldon heritage schools. These are the very old schools, perhaps during your mother's time. From 53, the previous administration, to 588 Gabaldon schools restored. And we have also benefited 2.1 million average of beneficiaries. Only recently, with the donation of the Department of Finance, of gadgets and tablets, which were turned over to us by the Bureau of Customs, we distributed these to the what we call the last mile schools, schools which have been nearly forgotten and were left behind. Next, please. We are also reaching more out of school young people. You have always opened your heart to learners who don't have the opportunity to study and to pursue education. And so our enrollment, for example, Mr. President, for the equivalent of 5 years compared to the previous 5 years is 57% higher than past administrations. In spite of all the challenges of pandemics and viruses and various controversies. And so we produced graduates from one region, for example, where we piloted senior high school for the alternative learning systems. This is for students who don't have the opportunity to go to regular school because they are either working or they don't have the capacity to support themselves. Next, please. On the matter of nourishment and nutrition, we all know the direct relationship between good nutrition and good learning, effective learning for our children. So we have an annual average of 2,191,442 malnourished and undernourished learner beneficiaries benefiting from school-based feeding programs. Right now, we have projects with agencies, for example, like the Department of Agriculture, to provide milk and bread for learners who are malnourished and undernourished. Our ideal and our ambition our dream, Mr. President, that we don't distinguish between and among malnourished and undernourished. All children should be fed when they go to school, as they are fed also in other countries. Next, please. We have distributed 55,151 ICT. This is internet packages, which were delivered for the past 5 years. And as I have said, we immediately distributed donations from the Department of Finance and other partners for advancing our journey towards the digital age. Personally, Mr. President, I would like to lessen our dependence on materials which are made out of paper, because we trigger floods, we require the killing of forests, etc., etc. And usually these materials are more expensive compared to ICT. And we are grateful. Department of Finance has donated twice already customs. And we are hoping that they will catch more smugglers for the benefit of our learners. And have also been negotiating with our multilateral partners like Asian Development Bank for the provision, Mr. President, of radios and other means of teaching and learning for our students, because there are places where you don't have connectivity, and we use radios, and they're very interesting for our children. We also have improved the ratio. We are always told time and again, Mr. President, that you have classes with 70 or 80 kids and one teacher. This is not true anymore. In 2016, when you started, we brought down the number of students per classroom to 32 per class. And in 2020, we brought down the number to 28 learners per class, instead of the usual dramatics about 60 to 70 or 80 kids per classroom. Most important, Mr. President, next please, in our fight for access and quality, next please, for our teachers, we consider them our heroes. And I have shown this chart before. Please, next chart, please. This one. It's very interesting, Mr. President. When you came in 2016, a teacher one who is at the lowest level of teaching earned 19,077. At this time, basic salary to Mr. President, he or she is earning 23,877 under your administration, Mr. President. By the time you end your administration in 2022, the lowest salary rate of a teacher, lowest grade, is 25,439, and not the pittance which has also been described by various sources. So by the end of your term, first we started the highest level for a teacher, Mr. President. Perhaps your mother was a master teacher, but she was even higher than this. When you came in, the salary of the highest teacher grade was 43,000. Now, the salary of the highest teacher grade is 60,901. Very, very much higher than my salary when I was a full professor at the University of the Philippines and an emeritus professor. 60,000. And by 2022, when you finish your term, your highest teacher, this is master teacher 4, will be at 62,449 basic salary, Mr. President. Now, in addition to the basic salaries which you have generously provided, because all of us love our teachers, you have other allowances. which our teachers earn, like the personal economic relief allowance. This is 2,000 pesos, Mr. President. The clothing allowance of 6,000 pesos. Before, Mr. President, we gave uniforms ready-made or cloth to be made into uniforms. Now we give them money. They have a choice. We give them 6,000. It's their choice. They can have new uniforms made, or they can make do with their old uniforms, but they are not held accountable for that money. Whatever they do with their clothing allowance, that is their choice, and that is 6,000 pesos. Of course, they have the mid-year bonus, which is allotted to all government employees. This is 1 month basic pay. Then you have the special hardship allowance for those who are in more difficult circumstances. This is 25% of the annual basic salary, 1/4. Then you have the honoraria for teaching overload. We have to emphasize this because perhaps the public needs more information on the benefits that you, under your administration, has given to teachers, which is a maximum of 25% of basic salary. I wish cabinet members will also get 25% of their basic salary when they stay up to 12 midnight attending IATF meetings. And then, most wonderful of all, and Senator Bong has been instrumental here, is the World Teachers Day incentive, which is 1,000 pesos per teacher. Every year we celebrate Global Teachers Day. The entire world pays tribute to the teacher, but ours is different because we give money, we give cash awards to our teachers, all of them. And while 1,000 seems small, you signed and you approved 910 million for this particular benefit alone for the teacher, a very huge chunk of our budget. And that is how you have always loved teachers. And then we have the 1 month basic pay of the employee as well, plus the usual representation allowance and transportation allowance. And then you have the step, this is called the step increment due to length of service. The longer you stay in government or in the Department of Education, for every 3 years of continuous service, you are promoted 1 step. And this is part of the 3-page list of benefits. Then you have the productivity enhancement incentive, which is which we call the performance bonus, and we have debates about this, of course. This is 5,000 per year, Mr. President. And then the cash gift of 5,000 again, Mr. President. And then for those who specialize in teaching science and mathematics, they have free salary step increments if they specialize in mathematics and science, because we are moving into the digital age. Furthermore, Mr. President, and it's a very long list, I'm sorry to bore you, it's a long list of money for our teachers. Loyalty cash incentive, 1,000 pesos for every year of service. Cash allowance subject to special provisions of the GAA, 5,000 pesos per year. Transportation and teaching aid allowance for the alternative learning teachers, those who teach for our ALS program, which you have generously supported, 3,000 and 5,000 pesos, Mr. President. So we have 3 pages of benefits which our teachers right now are enjoying. And then we also have been proposing additional teaching positions for the teachers. Before, Mr. President, the highest level of teaching is for a teacher is teacher 3, and then the next would already be master teacher 1, 2, 3, 4. we are proposing not only from teacher 3, we are proposing teacher 4, 5, 6, 7. So there will be more spaces for the teachers to move up from, with the corresponding proposed also increase in compensation. And for master teacher, we're also proposing an additional rank. Kasi ngayon, it's only up to master teacher. For right now, a master teacher gets 60,901 pesos. As I said, nearly double my salary as a full professor in UP. We are proposing the addition of another rank of master teacher 5 at 68,450 basic salary for the teacher. And this is how your administration has all these years, these 5 years, given attention and recognized the services of our teachers. Lastly, Mr. President, we are initiating a number of new projects. I always say, Mr. President, that I am the oldest in the Department of Education, but I am the youngest in terms of ideas and programs in the department. And we have established what I describe as the Education Futures Program, wherein we try to discern, hindi naman parang Madam Auring, what society will be, what it will need so that education can respond. Like, for example, the possibilities now of robot teachers, which are being studied in other countries, brain implants, machines which are so much better than humans, and how can humans remain human in the light of all these fascinating developments. So we are not looking at next year's election, Mr. President, but perhaps 30 years from now, 40 years from now, what will society be like? How will we prepare our learners? How will we prepare them mentally, aside from memorizing multiplication tables, Mr. President, as well as correcting their grammar? So this is one program which we are very interested in. And of course, another new addition, and Senator Bong is here with me, of course, is the establishment of the National Academy of Sports, which we are hoping to open also within this year, also together with the formal opening of classes. So bago itong dalawa, National Academy of Sports and the Education Futures program. So, Mr. President, these are just a few of the things that we have achieved with your support, with your inspiration, and of course, with your financial generosity. And we look forward to attaining these goals by the time your term ends. Thank you, Mr. President.
Salamat, ma'am. I'd like to call on Professor De Vera if he has something to add to the, especially the CHED.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a PowerPoint presentation. Maiksi lang, maiksi. Can you please flash it? Okay, I'd just like to give an update, Mr. President, on the reopening of classes in higher education. Next slide, please. Out of the close to 2,000 universities and colleges, about 1/3 has already opened in August, Mr. President. So nagsimula na yung semestre para sa ibang malalaking eskwelahan. The others are opening this September and until October. So we have successfully opened the school year 2021-2022 all over the country. Next slide, please. Dahil sa pagpirma nyo ng free higher ed, 1.6 million students are now not paying tuition and miscellaneous fees anymore. So, libre na ang tuition and miscellaneous fees ng 1.6 million ng mga estudyante sa lagpas 200 public universities all over the country. The enrollment has increased from academic year 2019-2020 to 2020-2021. So malinaw po, Mr. President, ang mensahe na pwede ka nang hindi lamang mangarap kundi makamit ang iyong pangarap sa kolehiyo at university. We also are funding about 435,000 students in public and private universities through the tertiary education subsidy. Yung mga nag-aaral sa public ay nakakakuha ng FAS, Mr. President, naging lifeline ito sa panahon ng COVID. Kasi ang enrollment sa public universities has not declined during COVID dahil libre ang tuition at yung 40,000 na nakukuha nila ay naging ayuda na pangbuhay ng kanilang pamilya ngayong panahon ng COVID. So, kung hindi po napirmahan yung RA 10931, Mr. President, mas grabe ang magiging epekto sa panahon ng COVID. Madaming hindi makakapag-aral dahil walang pang-tuition at walang pang-tustos. Kasama pa dito ang 210,000 na tulong-dunong beneficiaries. Next slide, please. Maliban sa RA 10931, we are also subsidizing now about 91,000 additional students in public and private universities through merit scholarships. Ito yung mga scholarship para sa matatilinong mga estudyante. At dahil sa bayanihan to, binigyan ang CHED ng 300 million pesos para bawasan ng tigli 5,000 yung utang ng mga estudyante sa private schools para mabawasan yung kanilang utang. At natulungan natin ng 60,000 na mga estudyante for this year in 2020. Next slide, please. Meron ho kaming hinahanda na 2 MOA. Ito po i-discuss ko na kay ES Medaldea. Yung una ay yung CHED, DND-DILG Scholarship. Nakausap ko rin po si Secretary Ed Anyo tungkol dito. Meron na kaming MOA na ready ng pirmahan para bigyan ng stipend yung mga anak na mga AFP at PNP personnel who are killed in action against insurgents. Namatay ho itong programang ito sa AFP, naubusan yata ng pera. At sa PNP ay walang programang ganito dati. So we have a MOA ready for discussion and signing para matulungan natin yung anak ng mga killed in action against insurgents. Kasama po ito dun sa utos nyo several cabinet meetings ago dun sa ating anti-insurgency program. Yung isa pa po na hinahanda namin, may MOA na rin, next slide please, ay yung balik loob scholarship. Ito ho ay sa Armed Forces para dun sa mga anak naman ng mga rebel returnees. Ito po ay bahagi ng utos ni E.S. Bingbong in one of the cabinet meetings to work on this program. Ito po ay siguro mag-uusap na lang kami ni Secretary Ed kung paano at kailan ito pwedeng simulan. So pinapalawak po natin yung mga matutulong ang mga bata para sila makapagpatuloy mag-aral. Next slide please. Nireport na po ni Secretary Bebot Bello ito, yung tabang OFW. Binigyan natin ng 30,000 pesos ang anak ng mga OFW na bumalik sa Pilipinas at hindi makaalis. Ang natulungan natin sa ngayon ay 16,719 dependents na. Meron po ho tayong natitirang mga 500 million para dito para pwede nating i-cover itong current school year. So in total, ang matutulungan natin ay pinakakonti yung 16, kung sila ulit bibigyan pa ng 1 taon, matutulungan natin ito. So binibigyan natin sila ng 30,000 pesos ng grant. At baka sakali naman kung bumuti yung ekonomiya at sila'y makaalis na, baka hindi na nila kailanganin ito sa susunod na taon. So meron ho tayong 1 billion na allocation dyan. Sabi niyo po doon sa isang programa ay datagdagan nyo ng 3 billion itong programang ito. Ito po yung report ni Sec Bebot. Galing po ang pondo sa CHED pero ang implementasyon ay pinagtutulungan namin ang DOLE. Next slide please. Nagpapasalamat kami, Mr. President, na noong January, pinayagan nyo na yung limited face-to-face classes sa medicine and allied health sciences. I would like to report that we have inspected and authorized, kasama ko po si Sec Charlie do sa unang inspection noon, we have inspected and authorized 118 schools to hold limited face-to-face classes, covering about 247 programs. Next slide, please. Ito yung covered sa ngayon: medicine, nursing, physical therapy, midwifery, medtech, speech language, dentistry, hanggang radiologic technology. Ito yung mga programang nag-face-to-face na yung mga selected schools, mga third year and fourth year students ito, dahil kailangan nila yung hands-on experience para sila ay maging bihasa sa kanilang ginagawa. Next slide, please. So, there are now a total of 13,000 students who are authorized to hold limited face-to-face classes in MGCQ areas, and GCQ areas where there are COVID-19 hospitals, and more than 1,000 faculty members who are authorized to hold face-to-face classes. Next slide, please. Last April 15, nagpapasalamat po kami sa IATF at inakyat yung category ng mga estudyante at faculty na maging essential health workers sila. So napabakunahan na natin ang close to 10,000 students doing face-to-face and more than 1,000 faculty members doing face-to-face classes. So we have put an additional safety level doon sa mag-face-to-face. Kaya po ang resulta, next slide please. Ang resulta, Mr. President, from January until last month, ang infection level sa mga estudyante ng face-to-face is less than 1%. It's only 0.3%. Sa faculty, 1.4% ang infection level. Lahat ito ay mild at asymptomatic.
Santon Plus Herbal Capsule.
Ako si Jessa, 25 years old. Dati may leukemia ako. Kasabay sa pag-take ko ng aking mga gamot, ang Santon Plus Herbal Capsule. Ang laking tulong talaga ng Santon Plus. And finally, I'm a leukemia survivor.
Santon Plus. Mabibili sa mga butika. Santon Vitamin C, ang alkaline na vitamin C.
Ako si Fiona, isang high school teacher. Sobrang stress lagi ako sa klase. Pero nang sinubukan ko ang Santon Vitamin C, naging ganado ako sa pagtuturo. At nagkaroon pa ako ng time sa aking anak.
Santon Vitamin C, ang alkaline na vitamin C. Mabibili sa pinakamalapit na butika sa inyong lugar.
Kailangang lumabas ng bahay, magsuot ng face mask, magdala ng alcohol at listahan ng mga dapat bilhin para makaiwas sa COVID-19. Isang paalala mula sa ACS Manufacturing, maker of smart dishwashing liquid.
Kasama mo sa saya, kasama mo sa papremyo. Ang RMN may kasama ka raffle promo. Bumili lang ng mga kasaling produkto ng Best Foods Mayo Magic. Pumunta sa pinakamalapit na RMN o IFM station at ipapalit ang empty packs upang makakuha ng entry code. I-scan ang QR code mula sa RMN o IFM station para makapag-register. Ilagay ang contact details kasama ang nakuhang entry code. After mag-register, antayin lumabas ang confirmation message na naitala na ang iyong entry. Para sa chance ang manalo ng 1,000 pesos, magpapalit ng 1 empty pack ng Best Foods Mayo Magic 220 ml. Para sa chance ang manalo ng 4,000 pesos, magpapalit ng 1 empty pack ng 470 ml o 2 empty packs ng 220 ml Best Foods Mayo Magic. Kaya sali na! Sa RMN, may kasama ka raffle promo. Hatid sa inyo ng Best Foods Mayo Magic. Tamis saya, abot kaya. Kasama ang RMN at IFM. Visit RMN or IFM Facebook page for more details. Promo runs from August 23, 2021 to November 27, 2021 for DOHFD ACFRR permit number 1250 series of 2021.
DZXL News Break.
Magandang umaga mga kasama, narito ang balita sa oras na ito. Pasay City General Hospital nasa full capacity pa rin. Detalye mula kay XL Radyo Mandos, Joyce Adra.
Nananatiling nasa full capacity ang Pasay City General Hospital. Partikular na okupado ngayon ang ICU adult at pedia beds sa nasabing pagamutan. Ang natitira na lamang na bakante na kama ay isa para sa COVID case. May dalawa ring COVID-19 patients na naghihintay ngayon na ma-admit sa emergency room ng Pasay City General Hospital. Kasama mo sa Southern Metro Manila, Radyo Mandos, Choice Collantas Adra, Tatak RMN, DZXL 558.
Manatili po kayo nakatutok sa aming Facebook page RMN, DZXL 558 Manila at i-like and subscribe ang aming YouTube channel, DZXL 558. Yan muna ating balita sa oras na ito. Ako inyong radyoman Jenny Pahilaga ng DZXL 558, Tatak RMN. Oras, 8:58 in the morning.
That time check was brought to you by ACS